You are listening to the Cars of Carlisle Network, podcast episode number 66. Tim Bowman, retired facilities director for Carlisle Events.
Cars of Carlisle is your favorite internationally downloaded podcast about all things automotive. Darren and his CFC team are ever searching for interesting automotive happenings, real stories about real car people, and fun features to inform and entertain you. Each week, the Cars of Carlisle crew brings you show topics ranging from car shows to team adventures to auto racing weekends to behind-the-scenes human interest stories from car nuts that live across town, across the country, or even across the globe. Come join the road trip.
Today, you'll get to meet the former facilities director of Carlisle Events. Tim Bowman invites Darren into his unique and well-designed home, garage, outbuildings, and workshop to talk about his own vehicles as well as his distinguished career at Carlisle Events. Listen to hear behind-the-scenes stories and engaging tales from Tim's many years of keeping the fairgrounds in tip-top shape for the world-famous swap meets and car shows. So, let's get revved up!
Hello and welcome back, Cubers, to your favorite informative automotive podcast. I am your trusted host, Darren, and I am glad to have you back again this week. Thank you for being a fan, a Cuber of this show. We all appreciate it. On behalf of the team, thank you guys. Was thinking before we get into this interview, I had the opportunity to go to the home of Tim Bowman. He is the former facilities director for Carlisle Events. As we're coming up to the tail end of the 2019 Carlisle Events car show season, wanted to talk a little bit about someone who was part of that for many years, and you're going to hear things about just the tons, truly, and hundreds of tons of trash and all the things that go into having to remove and the maintenance and keeping all the facilities and the grounds at the Carlisle Fairgrounds fully operational and in its best shape for the car shows each and every year. So we're going to learn more about that. Anxious for you to hear Tim talk about how he got into cars, about his time at Carlisle Events, and then we talk about some of the vehicles that he owns and is truly proud to have restored and to maintain and drive and enjoy as well. So before we head to that interview with Tim, let's do this week's trivia question. As I was flipping through and getting caught up on some reading, I was checking out the 2019 edition of Motor Trend magazine, and in there they were talking about imports from a company in Virginia that imports vehicles and sells them in the open market. And there was a term in there that I think we've all seen. There's even a show on Motor Trend Network that plays into this acronym. So the question simply is this: what does the automotive acronym JDM stand for? That answer coming up at the end of this podcast. Stick around. Now let's head out to visit with Tim.
I wanted to have a car when I was 16. What kid didn't want a car when he was 16?
It's freedom, yeah.
And I was fortunate that I did a lot of hunting with my dad. I used to hunt in a farm up near Newburgh. One of Dad's friends' father's farms. We came off the field one day. This was in November of 1969. Taking a break from a day of hunting pheasants, and we're sitting in a yard, and I had seen this old car, 41 Mercury Woody Wagon, in the shed, covered with pigeon crap and dust and dirt, and in a corn crib shed. And I asked old Pap Stowey if he wanted that old car. And his response to me was, "No, I don't want that old car. If you want it, it's yours." It had been parked in 1957. So I'm thinking, I want a car. I bugged Dad. In June of 1970, the title had been transferred. We went to Newburgh with a tow truck from Dillsburg and got the 41 Mercury and headed to Dillsburg and had a garage there is where we started the work. The thing about a barn find is I had my barn find at age 15.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some guys spend a lifetime looking for one.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I got to sometimes remember, you know, I already had my barn find. Because the beauty of it is, old Pap Stowey took not a dime. He did not want the
No
car.
kidding. Not even.
It sat for 13 years in that shed. The last inspection sticker, 1957, still on it.
Okay.
And my dad and I started working on it. I'm thinking I'm going to have the coolest ride at Carlisle High School, but fact is, it was 2008 till I got done restoring it.
Wow.
Things get in the way.
They do. They do.
You know, off to college, lack of funds, lack of a place to work. But, you know, I was stubborn and persisted, and in 2008, I finally had it on the road and done.
That's really cool. That's a labor of love, right?
Yeah. And unfortunately, my dad passed away in September of '96, so he never saw it completed.
Sorry.
But, yeah.
Did you do the work yourself, Tim?
We did the majority of it. That's why I call it an amateur restoration. I mean, if, you know, for me to take it to Hershey or have it judged or something like that,
Yeah.
I've never done that because we did basically everything except the motor, which was rebuilt at Schaefer Brothers in 1972 for the grand sum of $302 and some change.
Oh.
Wouldn't you like to get a rebuilt
Yes,
today?
I would.
At
Yes,
that
I would.
price?
Yeah. You can't even get a camshaft for that.
Yeah. So, yeah, everything was pretty much done by ourselves. When it came time for the paint, I was living in North Carolina, and my dad was retired. This was like 1983, and we were renting a garage from Martin Wise, who had started Marty's Auto Sales on East North Street.
Yes.
And paint job, Dad and Marty painted it. Didn't go to a body shop. So, yes. We did everything we could. There was 2 pieces of wood replaced, which all the rest is original. So we had a cabinet shop, which was Blue Mountain, if those guys even remember anymore, doing those 2 pieces of wood back in 1983, I believe. But other than that, Dad and I, we did it all.
Wow.
We
That's
did
pretty
everything.
impressive. There's a lot of satisfaction to be drawn from that, and you built amazing memories with your father.
Yeah.
That. So that's the
Yeah.
connection of it all.
Yeah, I mean, the crazy things you did back then, when it came time to set the engine, we had the front end torn off. And we picked up the engine. They actually put it in the back of a 69 Volkswagen Squareback.
Oh my gosh.
Is how we brought it home.
Oh.
And we used an old swing set.
Okay.
Our old swing set with roller skates
Get
on the
out
bottom
here.
and a hoist to get it out of the car and then wheel it and set it in the Mercury.
Yeah.
Now, we were fortunate in that the whole front end was off the Mercury.
Yeah.
So we were just... But, I mean, you look back...
It's clever. That's a good way to...
The stuff you got away with, you know, how you did things. Improvise.
Yeah.
You know, to get it done.
That is pretty cool. Now, was the Woody road like so? June of '70. That's when I heard you say that it was. Yeah, it was yours. Did it spend any time going to Carlisle High School, or was it?
No, I never got it on the road really to
It stayed off?
2008. It was
Okay.
it was actually October of 1972 when we finally started it for the first time.
Okay.
The engine was locked up. We
I just
tried to
wondered if-
free it.
Gotcha. Okay.
We started out in Dillsburg, back in 1970, June of '70, at my uncle's business in downtown Dillsburg, which had a garage in the back, and I can show you pictures. It was actually a Plymouth dealership
Okay.
in the 20s,
Okay.
and that's where we started working. And we'd use one of Uncle Russ's pickup trucks and hook it up to the Mercury. Now, we had put penetrating fluid down in the spark plugs, you know, on top of the cylinders. And Dad and I would be in the back of the garage, and he'd be in the pickup truck, short chain, and we'd start flying back through the garage, and he'd honk the horn, and I'd let the clutch fly. And the Mercury would go, you know, across the floor. And we finally gave up on breaking engine free. We're going to have to pull it and get it rebuilt. But, yeah.
How many miles on our clock right now? Do you know?
There's 79,000 some miles on it.
For the year though, that's low mileage for a 41.
Yeah.
That's really good. Now what can you, well, if you're open to it, we can show pictures on the social media, but what are some of the unique things that you think about your Woody that maybe the untrained eye may miss as far as just the dash, the lines, just parts of it that are maybe not everyone is aware of it, of what that Mercury might have?
I really don't know. There's so much. They're basically a glorified Ford. I think, well, one of the things I was always amazed at is, and the Fords and the Mercuries all had, when you turned the key in those back then, you locked the ignition switch and the steering. Which was like, wow, steering wheel lock in 1941. It did have a clock in the dash. A radio, AM radio. And the interesting thing with that, the radio was on the cowl up above the windshield.
Oh, wow.
Well, I mean, the antenna. So there was a knob to turn the antenna down. The steering, the spare tire had a lock. So nobody could steal you.
Yeah.
There was actually a lock that goes on the spare tire, so that wouldn't disappear.
That's good.
So it's interesting that features that you would not think would be on a car back then, and there they are. Other than that, there's nothing special about it. Other than it's interesting how many people this day and age just don't even know there were wood-bodied cars. They see one and go, "What is that?"
Yep.
But they were built to go to the station and pick passengers up and take them to the hotel or wherever they were staying.
Yeah, Cars of Carlisle was actually at America on Wheels up in the museum, and recently, and I learned the true meaning of that station wagon and a pickup truck, which was essentially like a Model T, Model A, where you could get the Sears Roebuck, slide in the wooden bed, the rumble seat, then you could go down, pick up a package with it. So that's how, these are just terms that we all know, but they had to start somewhere, and that was kind of neat to learn all that.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you've had a fascination with other vehicles too, some of which are been with you for many, many years. Do you want to talk about like the Power Wagon or anything else that is special to you?
The 58 Power Wagon I've had for over 30 years now. And that was for sale on Forge Road, which I passed each day going to work at the Tressler Care Wilderness School. I lived in Carlisle and commuted out there. And price tag on it, $3,750. Like I say, this is over 30 years ago. And
that was good money.
Yeah, I'm an avid hunter. And I never owned a four-wheel drive. And I thought, it's time. And bought it from Bill Garland, which, that's what he does, power wagons. I had friends who found out I bought it, and they put it to the test. They took me to an area out near the War Collies they called the tank tracks. I don't know if you ever heard of them. I don't even know where they would be anymore.
No, I don't.
And, wow.
Rugged terrain?
Yeah. And I passed the course that evening.
All right.
Go where you want to go. But just don't be in a hurry. It likes 45 miles an hour. Whenever I leave here to go to Carlisle, I am always aware of what time of day it is. Because although the Holly Pike is 45 miles an hour, and that's what I do, I piss people off.
Yeah.
Because that's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because it's geared so low.
Yeah.
But with a higher range, low range, transmission, you can get on these mountains in Michaud State Forest and drop it in 4-wheel drive, low range, and put it in first gear, and you don't even have to touch the gas, and that truck will walk up the mountain.
That's amazing.
And you can just eyeball and look for deer tracks or whatever, and just it's like you're walking, and it's just fine.
Wow.
So that one, yeah, I've had a hard time parting with that. It's never been far from home because
Right.
45 is.
Well, and you use it. You enjoy
Yeah.
it. That's
Yeah.
the great part of it too. It's not sitting and it's like a
No,
hermetically sealed.
it is not a showpiece.
Right.
But it's solid, it's sound, and yeah, 30 plus years.
It's all that matters. It's important to you.
Yeah.
What got you onto Power Wagons? Was it just seeing it every day on that commute to the?
It was sitting on the commute and really a 4-wheel drive.
Okay.
I mean, there are, like I say, I was an avid hunter. I like to get out in the mountains.
And it's
I didn't like
rugged.
the fact that,
And it's a rugged vehicle.
Yes, and I didn't, I like to be able to go up the Cold Spring Road,
Sure.
go out Ridge Road when there's snow and not
Right.
worry about getting stuck. And,
Right.
there again, I never owned a 4-wheel drive, and this was it. And
It was meant to be.
yeah,
Wow. Well, what about some of the other vehicles in your stable?
there's a 56 Plymouth Belvedere that I bought at one of Carlisle's auctions when I was still working there. That's been about 6 years ago now that I bought that.
Okay.
The reason I was interested in that is I had a 56 Belvedere in college.
Okay.
And unfortunately, and like I imagine many guys in their college days, they ran that car to its death.
Right. Right.
What can you say? You can't keep them all.
Right.
And I missed that car. And my Mercury was my first car, but my Plymouth was my first real driver. I got in 1975.
Gotcha.
And I had that while I was at Millersville State College. And this one came up about 6 years ago at auction, and Tony Klein had told me about it.
Mm-hmm.
And went to auction Thursday night. I'm standing there in my jeans and my Carlisle maintenance sweatshirt.
Yeah.
With my Carlisle ID tag, no bidders credentials, and
You figure you do the paperwork on the back end.
Tony and Bill are like, go ahead. Harold's like, go ahead.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you're good for it. And I bought a 56 Belvedere that night.
That's cool.
Just because I had one in college and I loved it.
Yeah. Well, they're a true 50s fin car. I mean, they're real pretty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, what engine does yours have?
I'm not even sure what size. It's probably the 270 Polysphere
Okay.
V8.
Mm-hmm.
The unique thing about it is now the owner was at Carlisle and told me that it has a dealer installed factory option 2 4-barrels.
Whoa.
Yes, on this old Plymouth.
Whoa.
And when you're driving that thing, I frequently take them for a run.
Mm-hmm.
Just to make sure things are working. I try to get everybody out at least once a month.
Yep.
And when I'm on my way home, I'm about a mile from here. There's a straight stretch. I let her get down to about 30, 35 miles an hour. And my objective is to get the old gas out of that one carburetor.
Sure.
So I punch it. And that old big Plymouth will just squat down and chirp tires and take
No
off.
kidding.
Yeah.
It'll grab rubber at 35.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Those 2 4-barrels open up. Yeah, I figured I got to get rid of the old gas.
Yeah. Well, it's just a good maintenance technique.
Yeah. It's a good maintenance thing, yes. It's,
I don't blame
I
it.
love that one.
I don't blame it.
And there again, it'd be hard to part with because, I loved mine that I had when I was at Millersville.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. What other ones did you want to share with us tonight?
I had the 31 Ford which is an all steel hot rod with a 52 Mercury flathead V8 in it.
Ooh.
Which that one I bought. It's probably been about 8 years now already, and it was fall Carlisle.
Okay.
And
was it a car corral vehicle?
no, it was actually out in the North Field.
Okay.
Rocky Mizell from up near Coogan Station, Lycoming County, had it, and he's been a long time vendor at Carlisle.
Okay.
And Flip Sayers, who handled the trash crew at the fairgrounds, he was also in my department. He calls on the radio. And I say, "Oh, what's up, Flip?" And he says, "I think I found your hot rod back here in the North Field." He says, "It's Rocky's spot. You better come take a look." So, downtime, I slipped back there. There sits a fire engine red 31 Ford Coupe, 52 Mercury flathead V8 with 3 2-barrels on it, and a driver.
Mm-hmm.
It's a driver,
Which makes it fun.
and it's all steel. And I sat down with Rocky, and that's the end of that.
Wow. That's really cool.
Was so excited, never had a hot rod, never had a hot rod.
Yeah.
Was so excited about getting a hold of something that, it's a head turner, but it'll scoot right along. And the fact it's got a flathead in it.
Yes.
Offenhauser heads on
What
it.
a great
3
mill.
deuces.
Mhm.
I was so excited that when we went to transfer the title at and do the paperwork at Sullenberger's,
Sure.
I still have regular tags on it. They couldn't give me hot rod tags or antique. They couldn't do all that. I had to wait. No, I wanted to drive. It's fall show. So regular tags are still on it, and
Hey.
it doesn't bother
We
me.
like what we like when we like it. So.
The other thing I like, I have antique plates in only one vehicle, which is the Mercury. The rest I run the classic tags, permanent registration, but you're allowed out at night.
Yes.
Plus, it requires me to get inspected every year, and I like that. I don't mind that. I like going to Matt. Usually in the fall of the year, I schedule a week. We just
Shuttle
every
back
day.
and forth.
Every day, I take one.
Well, that's right, because you got 5, right? So you can do Monday through Friday.
Yeah, and Matt will inspect them, and he's just, I want to say, an authority. He is an excellent mechanic, and he'll see things I don't see.
That's right.
And he gives me a list. He'll write things down. He says, "This is what I want you to do this year. This is what I want you to keep an eye on." So I do not mind
That sounds
getting them inspected.
that's the way to do it.
Yeah.
So what's number 5? Do you want to talk about her?
That one is a 56 Dodge C3 pickup, which I went to Winchester, Virginia to get because it escaped me at the fairgrounds. Deal Wilson, the Virginia giant that comes to the truck show, Deal had it.
Okay. So you followed him back down stuff?
Well, I saw it leaving. I saw
boy.
it leaving Carlisle
Oh, my.
at truck show, and it ended up. I forget now how I figured out who had it, but Lance and Billy were kind enough to give me the car hauler one day. I had to Winchester, Virginia, and made the deal with Deal, and Terry Starner, who was in my department. Terry rode along that day, and I came home with a drivable 56 Dodge C3. I thought, I'm just going to have fun with this, but it needed a new bed. Well, that can of worms.
Oh, yeah. It's a
The
Pandora.
bed came off, and the bed is actually oak from an oak tree I took off this property.
Wow.
So the oak tree went everything from live oak to milled lumber, air dried, and then planed in my shop, and then in the bed and finished. But
Who can say
as
that?
I dug into the project, it became a cab off restoration and rebuild the engine, and 5 years later, I finally was on the road.
And you did that work yourself again?
Again, all
Okay.
myself.
That's-
and it's
great.
It was done to look like a golf gas station truck, so it's orange and blue. You see, I'm a golf collector.
Well, and
that's a real globe.
I was gonna say, and I love the livery of that orange and blue. Obviously, I was inspired by the golf emblem, and that's in the logo of Cars of Carlisle. Oh, look at that! That looks
I
cool.
just put a 7-watt bulb. And the reason I collect golf products, my grandfather had a farmer's supply store in Dillsburg.
Okay.
And you can see this calendar is 1936.
Yeah.
And he sold golf gasoline and oils at his farmer's supply store.
Firestone tires too. Look at that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I have a picture of his place of business from probably the late 40s or early 50s with a truck parked out front. And you can see the old gas pumps.
That's really cool.
So that got me sort of started on the golf products stuff.
Yeah. Well, those are your 5. I think the Cars of Carlisle listeners would love to hear a little bit about the fact you had many years with Carlisle Productions, which became Carlisle Events, and you were director of facilities, correct? And
yeah, well, I started out by answering an ad for a facilities assistant in November of 2002.
okay.
Was hired and went to work for them about the 3rd of January of 2003. By November of that year, I was promoted from facilities assistant to facilities director. The show season of 2004 was a big learning curve for me. It was my predecessor did not teach me much.
Okay.
A lot of his job security was carrying everything around his head. I don't believe in that. Everyone's got to be able to get to the source of information.
Sure. Yep.
So I spent my first year with like I say, a big learning curve. In early April, I would stay late at the fairgrounds because I had not been taught as a facilities assistant how to turn all the lights on at night.
Oh my.
You know, which most of them are on sensors or on timers, but they have to be turned on prior to the show, so they're not burning 365 days. Mm-hmm. So I would go out to different panels and flick switches, and then go back to my office and do work until dark. Mm-hmm. Then get on a golf cart,
Go point to point.
and go check my work. So things like that.
Hit and miss. You had to learn by trial. Right?
Yeah, you had to learn by trial. Paper products.
So I think this was, you talked about this over St. Patty's Day weekend. I was fascinated. I don't want to preempt you, but you one day said, I'd like to keep statistics on how much stuff goes around here.
I did not know, for example, spring show is the biggest as far as attendance. Back then there was probably easily over 100,000 in attendance. Well, how many paper towels and toilet paper and hand soap? How much of that product do you need? I didn't know, so just order to make sure you have enough. You know, think, and then start keeping track. Again, there was nothing on file.
No records.
No records. In fact, Diane Vaughn.
Yes.
At that time, here I am, facilities director, and Diane Vaughn was ordering all the janitorial products. What's wrong with that picture? I said, Diane, how do you know what to order? She said, Dave would come in and say, just order what you got last time. That's not going to work. So I started keeping track of, and I made up a sheet. So every show, we knew what was stocked in each bathroom. And then at the conclusion of the show, we did another inventory. So we knew exactly what each bathroom had used.
Sure.
And just started keeping records. Well, eventually you find out how many million feet of toilet paper you go through, and hundreds of thousands of feet of paper towels and hand soap. The figures actually escape me, just how much it was. But, we wanted to make sure that during the course of the show, no restroom facility ran out of any product. So we started keeping accurate records. So we made sure they were stocked, and, our personnel, we actually had a contractor that manages those. Made sure, that they would have everything they need during the course of the show. We would, have it all covered. Some things I do remember. I was curious as to how much trash we move. Well, within 1 year, I kept accurate records. So I would just have the accounting department copy our invoices from the trash hauler, so I knew how many containers were removed, how much weight was in each container, so I knew by show how much we could expect to generate and get hauled. And came up 1 year, I believe it was 311 tons.
Wow.
At the end of the season.
Oh my gosh.
And we did that all with some John Deere Gators and 2 pickup trucks, and a lot of people walking and pulling. And
jeepers, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. And from that we would pull metal and tires and batteries. There was stuff we couldn't put in those containers, and of course recycle stuff.
Well, anybody that's been to the Carlisle Event Show, those big blue bins that are everywhere.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean, we even had a procedure for putting out the trash cans. A trash can was supposed to be every 20 spaces, so that's every 200 feet, and 3 at every food stand. So if you had a satellite food stand out there, and the in the food court alone, I believe there was 26 of them.
My goodness. That's a lot.
Well, there's 52 picnic tables in there, so there was one for every row that we had.
Sure.
During the course of a show, there are a lot of people who would attend Carlisle would just have no idea of what goes into pulling that off.
Yeah. The logistics alone are amazing.
Yeah.
And that's really, I'm glad you're sharing some of this tonight, Tim, because when you shared this with me around St. Patty's Day weekend, I was blown away. I've been coming to the show since I was a little guy, but you don't stop and think about it.
Yeah.
It takes months and months of effort on everybody's part to get ready for show season, to get ready for the show weekend, and then to clean up and get ready for the next one. It's staggering all the amount of person hours that go into that.
Yeah, a lot of, there's so many, people just, they don't see the setup. They don't realize what would happen in the course of a season. Back when we had a 10-show season, I can remember one year our event planner for a truck show, how should I say this? Well, he made me upset a little bit because he had over, I think it was 1.75 miles of fence. It's a lot of fence to put up for a show and then tear down. And I kept track 1 year. 1 year we put up over 8 miles of fence, all to be torn down. You put it up for one show.
What was the intent?
To divide maybe a parking area from a vendor area to control crowds. Like for the bike show example, we used to put a lot of fencing up to control the motorcycles to make sure they used the lanes and didn't just go across the fields.
Gotcha.
Like truck show, the rock crawl area, you'd have to fence that off.
Yeah,
sure.
For
just
safety
for safety reasons.
Yeah, sure.
When the motorcycle guys are performing for the monster truck. So temporary fencing for every show. And 1 year I kept track. Over 8 miles.
Wow.
We put up.
Wow. That's
and when you do 8 miles of fence, well, take 8 times 5,280 feet and then divide that by 8 feet. And you'll know how frequently the posts are.
I was gonna say that's a lot of sections, a lot of posts.
A lot of post poundage.
On how you never asked of anything of anybody that you wouldn't do yourself or had done yourself. You personally would get down them and.
There's just no way you could sit back and just be a manager when it came time to showtime. One of the things I started doing when I took over was I had a big dry erase board in the shop, and it would be laid out Monday through Sunday of show week. Mm-hmm. And every day had a list of things that needed to be done that day. But, and the guys used to say, when are we going home? Well, hopefully by 7 o'clock tonight, but the list has got to be done. Mm-hmm. If we're fortunate enough to knock off Monday's list and it's 5:30, start on Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. Because no matter how well you prepare and plan, there's going to be some curveballs coming at you.
I'm sure.
There's always something that pops up. There's an issue, there's a problem. So everyone knew that I may be down in the Midway setting up the electrical grid. Mm-hmm. And everyone on my team knew that don't go find a boss. What's on the board? Mm-hmm. What can I knock off? What can I do? Mm-hmm. If you have a question, get on the radio.
Yeah.
And then you got it done, you check it off.
Keep going.
Just keep going. If you need help doing something, get on the radio. Big feet. The big feet that go out to mark all the areas for the cars to park.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When they mark all the areas for the Mopars, the B bodies, and
right.
Well, there were shows there'd be 220 big feet out, and then the signboards had to go in, and so it's a 2-man job. You get on the forklift, and someone's reading the map. Okay, drop one here, drop one here. Mm-hmm. So yes, every show, the dry erase board was all laid out.
And you're doing some serious back-breaking work too. You talked about driving those posts and everything else.
Putting fence up. Carlisle did grow in certain areas during my tenure. For example, the Manufacturers Midway, Ed and Jim really grew that. When I started, we had 12 panels in what we called splitters. We had 12 panels and 2 splitters. And a panel was a 200 amp service. Breaker board with a bunch of outlets, 220, 110 on an A-frame. And we would run a cord to them, hook to a pole, run a cord to that. Okay, McGuire's is set with their power. And then go to the next one. Like I say, when I started out in 03, we had 12 panels and 2 splitters. When I left, we had 36 panels and 2 splitters.
300% growth.
Now, when you think about it, each panel was what you would find in a new home, a 200 amp panel. We had cords in excess, 100-foot cord back then would cost in excess of $800 for a 100-foot extension cord. We had some of them 400 feet long because we would get the Manufacturers Midway layout with their power requirements, 220 or just regular 120 volts, and then we'd have to figure out how we're going to do it. And you got a 400-foot 6-gauge cord, and you're dragging down,
Seems to me like there was a lot of MacGyvering happening. Like you had to be very clever and innovative, use what you had, figure things out.
Yeah.
Probably last minute changes that you.
Yeah, there were times that I know I pushed the marketing department for details. If someone's coming onto the Midway and they need 220 power, I need to know that. Because I need to make sure that I have enough juice there. and dedicated to them.
That's right.
Because normally when a panel would be set, I might have 6 vendors grabbing juice off of it in the midway. Now if someone needs 220, wow, we're hooked into a 100 amp breaker up the line, which may not hold.
Yeah.
So that's, I used to push them. I need to know what people need so I can get it right the first time.
Did you ever have any electrical close calls?
I had Carter's call me one time because Greg had no power in one of his satellite stands on Duke Boulevard. And I opened the panel and a breaker had kicked. A 100 amp double pole breaker had kicked. And I reached up to snap it back in, and I jumped back. And Greg said, "Did you just get shocked?" I said, "No, that's how hot it is."
Wow.
It was that hot to it clicked. Because we're pulling too much juice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, our temporary setups were, you had to think them through.
That's a lot. And I know you spent many a night on a cot. Never left a...
Well, we had the maintenance crew, for example, spring shows coming up, maintenance would run continuously from Monday morning till Sunday afternoon. Someone would be overnight schedule. And that way, in the event of emergency, we had a maintenance right there. We didn't have somebody getting out of bed 15 miles away and driving in.
Right.
We had somebody right there. And believe it or not too many crazy calls.
Well, that's
it happened.
Sure.
I had water breaks, situations, but the one thing that worked out well was security knew that the first question was, can this wait till morning? Versus getting that guy up, because he put in at least a 12-hour day, if not 14 or 15, and he's got the same thing tomorrow. So can this wait till tomorrow? Can we secure it? Is it something that can wait? Early in my career, I did have a security personnel woke my guy up at 1 a.m. because he had a flat tire on his golf cart. I said, it's lucky he's still alive. When there's 30 golf carts there, get another one.
That's right.
So that's sort of what brought this around.
Right.
When there's an issue, security would go to their supervisor, their overnight supervisor, who would decide.
Yeah, let this one ride.
Yeah, just let maintenance go.
Right.
Get another golf cart. So that helped tremendously. So usually, by 10 o'clock or so, you could settle in and think, okay, unless it's a major event, the water's got to be running, the electricity's got to be arcing, something's got to be on fire. It's it's got to be something that has to be handled now, and then security would get us, and not too often.
Okay, good.
Did we get,
that's good to hear.
Shaken out. There were times that it was just plain late till we got done. What was it, Corvette show? I'm trying to remember the year Lance actually called the Corvette show Saturday night because of the storm. It was the only time in Carlisle's history that Sunday was closed to everyone except car owners and vendors.
Wow. Because
we had such storm damage. The 50th anniversary Corvettes, was that in 07 or 8?
Well, would have been 03 if it's the 50th.
It wasn't the 50th of the 53. So they do a 50th anniversary each year.
Okay.
So it might have been
the
50th anniversary of the 56 or the 57 Corvette.
Gotcha. Okay.
But anyways, the one special display tent, half the tent came down. It was just, I'll tell you how bad it was. I brought in 2 30-yard open top containers to put the easy up frames in. That's how many easy ups were mangled and took off. We filled 2 30-yard containers. So that was after 1 a.m. till we got out of there at night, and we were all back by 7.
Wow. Any damaged vehicles that particular?
There was some. Lance would know. Some of my guys would know. I can't remember what year that was.
What other standout memories of your tenure would you want to share?
I don't know. There's so much. I mean, we had Lifeline land in the field one time. Vendor got hurt when he was taking his 5th wheel trailer, dropping it.
Okay.
There's truck show one year. I get called because there's a black snake under a trailer down by the food court.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
And I had to go get that. And I took him over to the armory, put him in the woods. There's so many things that went on.
Well, do you have a favorite or a fondest memory?
Not really.
No?
They're just packed full. Okay. There was a year, again, this was truck show. There were a colony of honeybees were migrating. They'll follow the queen. And I got a call because there were all these bees down at the food court. And they were actually really on the west side of the food court where we had the octagon tables. We started setting those out a few years back. It's where they were congregating. And somebody's idea was to kill them. I said, no. And until I got down there, thank goodness Sean in security called a beekeeper in Perry County. And I told him, I said, just cordon the area off, is what I had told him. If this is a colony on the move, they'll be there no more than 24 hours. And they're probably settling in for the night. And just cordon that off. I said, give up a few picnic tables, and the beekeeper came and I went down, and we had, of course, caution tape around, and she had brought a hive with her, and this was far too interesting for me. I had to go under the caution tape and go sit down very carefully and start watching. Yeah. And this mass of bees were under the table, and we just got our paper plates and we cut them in half, and she used them like a dustpan, and started getting them and putting them in the hive up on the table. Now, honeybees are not vicious if you're careful with them.
Yeah.
Then she's sitting at the table, and she's got her finger right in the bees, and her husband's assisting, watching. I'm watching. I looked at him and said, "What's she doing?" He said, "She's looking for the queen." I said, your wife's sniffing the air. She said, yes, she can smell the queen.
No kidding.
The pheromone.
Okay.
Which is the hormone that the queen gives off. She said, my wife can find her.
Wow.
So she found the queen, knew she had the queen, so she started loading up the hive, and it's just fascinating to watch this go on at the truck show. We had a crowd watching. And by dark, all the bees were there. They had all come in the hive, and away she went. And I can remember, this is winding down, and I got up to leave, and her husband went, hold on. And he took the bee off my arm. I had a honey, took that honeybee off.
Put it with the rest.
Put it with the rest of them. So many stories. The outhouses burned in 2003 down there on Q Row. Somebody had set that on fire. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There was always something going on.
Well, I appreciate you sharing some of that from your days at Carlisle Events. I really appreciate you letting me come into your home and hang out. And just to close, maybe because we have a growing following, California, other countries, beyond just the central Pennsylvania area.
Yeah.
You've been, for the most part, a Carlisle native.
Yes.
For nearly all of your life.
Well,
right? Or nearly,
yeah, I was born and raised in Carlisle. I had, except for the college days and a short stint working in North Carolina,
Okay.
I've been pretty much around here all my life.
And the reason why I asked that, Tim, is just to say we're all proud of Carlisle and what it offers and what have you. Anything that you'd want to share with someone who may not have yet been here, or perhaps has come to the shows but they don't know, some of the treasures that Carlisle offers. I always like to, give people a chance to share that.
If you're into the specialty, if you're a Mopar person, why of course you come to the Mopar show. If you're into pickup trucks, do the truck show. If it's flea market you desire, the spring and the fall. I still go. Back in the 70s, we cut class at Millersville on Fridays to attend spring and fall Carlisle when they were just starting out. My one college roommate still comes to Carlisle. He's been a vendor since 1980.
Wow.
And still comes to Carlisle. What I so enjoyed about spring and fall was I had my list, but of car parts I'd be looking for, or even slot cars or golf memorabilia. You never know what you're going to find.
That's the mystique of it.
Yeah, that's the mystique. You never know. I look back, there were times that parking was just crazy. And I was fortunate, when I lived in town, I'd have somebody take me to gate 1. Oftentimes my mom or somebody would take me to gate 1 and I'd hoof right to the north field and work my way back. And at a certain point, in the day, hit one of the pay phones, call for my ride for my pickup. There's an interesting one. Bill Miller could probably tell you that. How many payphones used to be out there? The lines used to stand for probably a half hour, 45 minutes.
I remember seeing that.
Payphone at the end of the day. There are none.
Right.
During
Just
my
like an
tenure,
airport.
during my tenure, we tore out the last ones. Now they've got cell towers on the grandstand.
Yep.
So yeah, spring and fall shows are still they're still fascinating. Unfortunately, it's not what it used to be with
Right.
eBay and the computer nowadays.
Sure.
But we still like to go out and find the stuff and inspect it firsthand.
And you knew Chip too, correct?
Yes, I was fortunate. I started in January of 2003, and Chip passed away, March 2004.
Yeah. Okay. But
So-
amazing guy, along
Yeah.
with Bill too. The fact they had the vision.
Yeah.
And they were able to create something, really, in response to Hershey wasn't going to acknowledge it, and they felt a need and they wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, I look back to when Dad and I started in 1970 on the Mercury. You had 2 options for parts hunting. You went to Hershey, or you went to junkyards. That was it. There was no internet. There was nothing
Right.
like that. You started hoofing and
Yeah,
covering some meats, and Bill and Chip had the insight to take it a little bit beyond what Hershey was doing, and
Well, I'll be at Spring Carlisle too, and
oh yeah, I plan to be there. I talked to my old college buddy just the other night. He's planning on coming up. He gets space. He has spaces at fall,
okay.
but spring we'll just go.
It's
shopping.
a reunion of sorts. People,
Yeah.
they'll run in. Hey, what'd you do all winter? What's your project car? What's happening?
Yeah.
What are you looking for today? It's quite the gathering of old friends and people of like mind. And all
Yeah,
that.
it's kind of sad. It's not quite what it used to be. I think it's because the core group that goes is just getting older.
Yeah.
Man, I've been going since the 70s. God. Mark Schultz, Joe Cornicchione, and me, we cut class at Millersville on a Friday, come to Carlisle and shop,
Yeah.
then stop at my parents' house on Wilson Street and, eat and
Yeah.
hang out, and
get a
then
home meal.
back to Millersville.
Yeah. Good memories.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for being part of Cars of Carlisle tonight, and we'll get this episode out there and share your message with everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome back, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. To me, it was just fascinating to know more of what went into the work to keep that fairgrounds in its fully operational state. And a big thank you to Tim for opening up his garage and home to let me come out and interview and spend some time with him. So, Tim, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed this. Before we close out, let me go ahead and give you that answer to this week's trivia question. Just to refresh, it was simply this: what does the automotive acronym JDM stand for? And quite simply, it means Japanese Domestic Market. So thank you for continuing to be a fan of this podcast. We are grateful and so glad to have you part of it. We're going to continue to grow the content, grow what we do, and you can be part of that by sharing, forwarding, posting, putting it out on whether it be Snapchat, Instagram, your social media. Be sure to go out and like us on iTunes. 5 stars would be greatly appreciated. Put a positive review. That would mean a lot to us. And that helps us quite a bit with search engine optimization and for getting our content to the forefront in Google searches and with just the automotive industry and fellow hobbyists. So for now, I'll say drive well, be well, and take care.